In the world of sales, why is it that you have to role play and practice? Why does it help you? How does it make you better? And what do you need to know? I'm Scott Silvenfeld. I'm coming to you live from Sacramento, California on a perfect day to talk about sales and a perfect day to talk about you. Before we begin, hit that subscribe button for video number 10. Video number 10, or in sign language, 10. So here's the thing. If you role play and practice, it's proof to yourself you have skin in the game. And one of the things that I see is salespeople will wobble, meaning they'll go, should I stay in sales? Should I not stay in sales? I like sales. I don't like sales. And the difference between the people who are like, you know what? I'm going to stay in sales. It's a fight. It's tough. I don't know if I'm going to be good at it, but you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to practice. I'm going to stay in the game. They got buy-in. They got emotional buy-in. They have mental buy-in. And if you want to be good at what you do, you have to make that decision. Some people will say you got to burn the ship, meaning there were some pirates and there were some conquistadors that would go and travel the world. And what would happen is when they would land in some different world or different nation than themselves, the captain of the ship would burn the ship and say, we're not going back. Like, the burn the ship means, like, I'm going to make this decision. I'm going to stay. I'm going to put in the work. I'm going to put in the energy. I'm going to put in the effort. I'm going to pay for a coach. I'm going to pay for a mentor. I'm not going to wait for my sales mommy, my sales daddy, which is the business owner or the manager, do all the work for me. I'm going to say, I'm going to commit. I'm going to make that commitment. And so part of that is working on your goals. Part of that is writing down how is it you're going to practice. Part of that is recording your presentation. Part of that is transcribing your sales presentation. Part of that is paying for somebody to work with you. Part of that is going on ride-alongs and taking really good notes. Part of that is paying somebody who's better than you to give you information so that you have skin in the game. I believe in you. If you're watching this video, you're in the top 20% in my mind because you're doing something to get better. All of your competition, I say this a lot, all of your competition, 80% of them, they're sitting on the couch, they're playing video games. The average salesperson, this stat says that the average salesperson spends less than $25 a year on themselves, okay? So in today's money, that's two lunches in California to drive up window for a large burger, large fries, large drink. Right? That's ridiculous. In 1 week, the average person will not spend as much money as they spend on their lunch on their lifetime of learning. So if you can't afford a book, go to a library. There's one in your city. There's one in your county. You can't afford training, barter with one of the top players in your field. You may have to wash their car. You may have to cook for them. You may have to do something. You may have to trade. You may have to put in some effort. But see, here's the thing. When you put in that effort, that's telling yourself, I'm in the game. That's telling yourself, I want to do everything possible to stay in the game. That's telling yourself, I'm willing to do what other people aren't. And when you're willing to do what other people aren't, it makes you better at what you do because you have that time. Sometimes people will say, hey, Scott, I can go on a piracy website and I can download a ton of content. But the problem with that is you have no skin in the game. The problem with that is there's nothing there for you. That's fraudulent. You don't have to do that. Put in the time, the work, the energy, the effort, pay somebody, work with somebody, ask the questions, and make the decision. I'm going to stay in sales. I'm going to make it happen. I may have to call people. I may have to interview people. There's been people who've reached out to me and said, hey, can you answer me a couple of questions? I believe that to a large extent, I got to give back. And the fuel in that tank is, if you ask me for help, you better do something with it, right? There's nothing worse than for someone to be an ASK hole, meaning they ask a ton of questions and they do nothing. And sometimes what will happen is the information that you get is not the information that you want to hear. And so what will happen is you discount it. You're like, I don't really like that, so I'm not going to do that. It makes me uncomfortable. Good sales training should push your boundaries. They shouldn't push your ethics, but it should push your boundaries to go, whoa. So for me, in 2006, I saw this guy named Dave Laconnie. Dave Laconnie has got a book called Persuasion, the Art of Getting What You Want. And I was blown away. I thought I knew sales, right? So I'd been in sales for 5 years. Excuse me. I thought I'd been in sales for 5 years. And I thought, gosh darn it, I've read a ton of books. I'm smart. I've listened to a ton of CDs. I know everything. And the guy pushed my boundaries for what I believed sales was and what I believed persuasion was. And it made a difference for me. At some point in your life, you're going to run into your own version of that. And someone's going to push your boundaries and go, it's okay if you do that. It's okay if you ask that. It's okay if you say that. You really should be doing this to be better at sales. And if you want to get your feelings hurt, you're going to look for an objection and say, I don't really want to do that. I'm not going to try it. And if you're thinking about it and you're smart, what you're going to do is go, I'm going to implement that, but I'm going to practice it first. I'm going to role play it so that I'm not practicing on a buyer. So I'm not using acquired leads to do my practice. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, what happens is if you're not practicing on your own time, You're practicing on your buyer. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to you. It's very costly. There you go. You do have to role play. You do have to practice. I would say minimum, bare minimum, an hour and a half a week. If at all possible, an hour a day. You want to close as many deals as possible. You want your time to be profitable. Practice all you can get. Make some phone calls. It doesn't have to be that you're in an office. I know a couple of people who role playing and call each other all day. What would you do in this situation? What would you say? What would you do? How would you interact? How would this happen? And they build a repository of information. So you get that from interacting. But you know, the ticket to get in the show. The fuel for the tank is for you to show up. The fuel in the tank is for you to prove that you're supposed to be with those closers by putting in the work, by putting in the effort, by taking the punishment of being rejected, by taking the punishment of looking dumb and looking silly in front of those closers and saying, I don't care if I get judged in here. I'd rather get judged in the training room than out in the field and not close a deal. Put in the work, put in the effort, put in the energy. I believe in you. You're watching videos. You're doing what you can to get better. You got one thing to do from here. Just one thing. Find the subscribe button. Click on it. Every time I send out a video, you'll get an update. It says Scott Bell Consultant sent another fantastic video, probably from a cool location. Today I'm in Sacramento, California. We'll see you soon. Thanks for dropping by. Aloha.